Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and on the other side of the cage is my co-host, Casey Onyebuchi.
Whoop and gig 'em. All that.
Boop? What is boop?
Whoop. Whoop. Come on
Whoop?
now. Yeah. Oh. Texas A&M.
Yeah, this is how I know that you are not a true Aggie.
I'm not. But I support them winning in the tournament, keeping my bracket alive.
All right. You had Texas A&M?
I did.
You know who I had?
Who's that?
None of them. I don't even have a bracket running. I missed every single game of the entire March Madness basketball tournament.
That's fair. That's fair. Because combat sports are way more interesting anyway.
That's right. You know, that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
All right.
Well, you know, the fates conspired to take us down last week. We didn't get a chance to broadcast. You know, the equipment was messed up. I was out of town. There's just so many things that were just going wrong last week.
And I was hungry, so yeah, there's a lot.
You were hungry or were you thirsty?
I feel like I'm not going to answer this because I'm being set up. So I would like to plead the fifth.
All right. So, you know, we got a ton of topics to cover in less than an hour. So the UFC traveled to London for heavyweight showdown between former heavyweight champion and combat sports talk show favorite Fabricio Werdum.
I wouldn't exactly say that he's my favorite.
Yeah, you would whenever he throws a boomerang at certain people in Australia.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, right until he loses. But yeah, let's get it going there.
All right. And contender hopeful Alexander Volkov.
That dude was massive.
6'7".
God,
6'7".
That's a dude that ducks into the octagon. That's crazy.
Despite all the action going on in the ring, though, all eyes were on the audience, where Darren Till, who I consider to be the Conor McGregor of the UK, sat with a mischievous smile on his face. There's one person out there who listens to the show who rolled his eyes when I said mischievous. It's mischievous.
I've always said mischievous, and I refuse to change.
It's mischievous. So, before we talk about that, let's look at all the results from the action on the official decision. The official decision. This is The Official Decision, a segment where we recaps the fights that matter and discuss the ramifications of the action from Saturday night. Leon Edwards defeated Peter Sabata via TKO in round 3 with 4 minutes and 59 seconds elapsed. He had 1 second left before they went to decision. That is a last-minute stoppage if I've ever seen one.
That's perfection. Like, you can't time that ahead any better.
Yeah. So, The interesting thing, the reason why this matters is because, like I said, sitting in the audience is Darren Till. Everybody's like, ooh, what is he going to do? Why isn't he fighting on this card? And so Leon Edwards was like, when he finished the fight, he had his hand raised. Dan Hardy comes into the ring with the mic and says, hey, he grabs the mic and goes, Darren Till, let's fight. May, Liverpool, let's do it. And he hands the mic back to Dan Hardy and walks out of the cage. And that's it. That was all it was.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I think Edwards might be, he's a contender. That dude was dope.
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about this.
Yeah.
The great thing about this fight is the fact that he grappled as a striker. He grappled against a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and I think he put in some work. He did.
He absolutely held his own on the ground. I mean, he was passing guard extremely well. He stayed active. Man, I liked what I saw from him.
Absolutely, especially when you thought that the last thing he would do was take this guy to the ground. So in the next fight, Tom Duquesnoy defeated Tyrion Ware via unanimous decision. Tom,
shout out to your high school French teacher because you're nailing this.
Thank you so much. I should say, merci beaucoup,
merci
monsieur.
beaucoup. Darion.
So I think this was a ripoff. I had Tyrion Ware winning this fight two rounds to 1. And you know, I think that there's a lot of people out there who felt the same way. But unfortunately for Tyrion, he did not take this loss well. He was all day today. He's on Twitter blowing up people for, for offering their opinion about his fight. I mean
the numbers don't lie, though. I mean, if you're looking at total strikes with Tom Duquesnoy at 70 versus Tyrion Ware at 108, I mean, significant strikes landed still Tyrion's favor. Takedowns, Tyrion's favor. My man, how do you lose this fight?
You know how you lose the fight? You leave it in the hands of the judges.
That's fair.
That's how everybody who wins fights but loses them loses their fights. So I guess you should have knocked me out. Anyway.
I have a belt, so I'm good. I mean, I guess you should have attempted to. Good luck with that.
Jan Blachowicz defeated Jimmy Manuwa via unanimous decision.
On their, this was their rematch fight.
Yes, so now it's 1-1.
Put in work on the first fight, and Blachowicz, man, he stood in there. He was ready to bang.
He was. I mean, the thought was that he shouldn't stand toe to toe with Jimmy Manuwa. And Jimmy Manuwa, the poster boy, is a knockout artist. You know, they were talking about before that Jimmy Manuwa is a person who takes risks, who will go in there in order to land a knockout punch. He will eat punches on the way in just to land them, which means that sometimes he gets knocked out and sometimes he finishes the fight.
Couple of things, though. My man Jimmy Manuwa is like 38 years old. Like, pretty impressive to still have that quickness and power. Blachowicz, I apologize if I'm pretty sure I'm ruining that, but
no, I think it's pretty accurate. You're doing good.
Hit Manuwa with an uppercut that seemed to just completely throw Manuwa off his game. Like, you got blood everywhere, and Manuwa just starts seeing red and wants to swing for the fences, and really didn't vary it up. Like, so Jan is throwing out his jab, and that jab was super effective. I don't think Jimmy really considered using his jab the entire fight. He was just swinging for the fences.
Right, and Jan being a bit taller than Manuwa, he was just throwing that double jab. He threw that thing for 3 rounds, just double jab, double jab, double jab, and it was highly effective.
You know what the announcer said about it? He had some sumptuous striking.
Wow. That's how you know that the fight was taking place in the UK, where the grasp of the Queen's English is superior to our broken Texas American.
I say, good sir.
I say.
In the name of the Queen, knock him out.
Knock him out. Cold. That's some sumptuous striking I see there.
That threw me off. I had to stop watching the broadcast. Like, wait, what just happened? I'm like, are we talking about food right now? Because I'm hungry. Anywho, this is way off track. It's just I honestly couldn't focus on part of the fight after they said sumptuous striking. I was like, people don't talk like this.
Not here in America.
Tell you what.
So, my question for you, Jimmy's career. This is 2 in a row. He's got destroyed by what's his name? Gosh.
Yeah, that dude was dope.
That guy. He got destroyed. Posterized by, I could see his face.
By the dude, man.
By the dude. And then he got beat by young Blachowicz.
The thing is,
oh my gosh,
I'm not ready to call it yet. So
you're not ready to call it.
I'm not there yet. I mean, he still has a ton of power. He just has to be able to vary his game a bit more.
Okay.
So I don't think that he's done just because it wasn't like he got absolutely worked here. I mean, it was a fairly even back and forth. He just didn't do a ton here. So his last loss was to Volkan Ozdemir.
Yeah, I looked it up as well. I was like, oh, how come I couldn't come up with that name? I mean, everybody's named Volkan Ozdemir these days. So,
really cool car, Volkan Ozdemir.
You know, I think that Jimmy Manuwa will stay around just because he puts on exciting fights. You know, he's a person, like I said, that goes in and tries to get the job done throwing big shots early and often. But I think if you think about the fight when he fought with Volkan Ozdemir, he was positioned to be the number one contender. And now with 2 losses, he's got to be tumbling down the top 10. I think he's falling into gatekeeper mode.
He might be. I mean, his last 5 fights here are interesting. He's fought some pretty decent names. You've got Anthony Johnson, which...
Yeah, I mean, Anthony Johnson murdered him.
There's no shame in taking an L to Anthony Johnson. Ovince St. Preux, he beat him, so I'll take that with a round 2 KO. He beats Corey Anderson. I don't remember Corey Anderson at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you think
these
about
last 2, they hurt him.
Yeah.
they definitely hurt his status taking a loss with these last 2.
When you look at the fights he's won, there are people that don't stand out to you as amazing fighters. But then when you think of the fighters who are amazing, who he's fought, he's lost them all. So I can't see him going for a title anytime soon. All right.
Nah.
Alexander Volkov.
Volkov. Yes.
The Russian.
He dies.
Defeated Fabricio Werdum. Kind of Rocky IV style in the 4th round with a knockout.
Yeah. It was a good fight, though.
Oh, it was a great fight. I mean, I think that Fabricio Werdum came in there trying to execute his strategy, which was, this is the thing, right? We've always said that what makes Fabricio Werdum great as a heavyweight is the fact that he can take fighters to the ground and go for submissions. And he did that in the 1st round, and in the 2nd round, he took Alexander Volkov down to the ground, was working for the submission. The only problem is Alexander Volkov has some jiu-jitsu. The dude was great.
He was good. He was pretty good.
Compared to
he clearly
Fabricio
wanted
Werdum,
to
who's
fight on
a
the
world-class Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy.
Well, as they said on the broadcast, everyone's the same height on the ground, so it was a great move from Werdum.
Right, until, unfortunately, Werdum stood up in the 1st round, and Volkov had just enough space to land a punch that cut him over the top of his eye, and like in the 2nd or 3rd, cut him under his eye, so that it was his what is that? His right eye was completely
right. So he got cut under the eye first, and then the top of his eye, and basically couldn't see out of his right eye.
Yeah, I mean, and so what was interesting is that in the 4th round, once it seems as though Werdum had gotten winded. I think he gassed out.
I don't know. He still came out in the 4th. That's the round he jumped again as if it was actually going to connect.
Yeah, but
he was lackadaisical, and then all of a sudden, I got this power. Let's do this jump kick that never is going to land again because people are expecting it.
Yeah, and so what ends up happening is, midway through the 4th round, Fabricio Werdum is like, screw this. There's nothing I can do. I can't get this guy to the ground anymore.
Yeah.
And so he just says, I'm just going to go in and try to knock him out. And Volkov, who's 6'7", is just backing up. He's a world-class kickboxer. So this is his wheelhouse now. And it only took 1 or 2 shots, and Fabricio Werdum was out cold.
Yeah, it was strange to me because they didn't look overly powerful, but they definitely did damage.
They were effective. I thought the exact same thing. I was like, he's just barely tapped. Oh, wow. That's
surprise, that old man strength.
Yeah. So my question
we'll learn
for you
today.
My question for you is, what's next for Werdum? I mean, we were at least a couple of shows ago
in a parking lot.
Well, we need to get to that, but it was. We were positioning him, at least I was a couple of shows ago, to get another title shot against Stipe Miocic, and now Fabricio.
I don't think it's that bad because the heavyweight division is still kind of wonky. Yeah, outside of the champion, like things can move really quickly. Stylistically, there's some people who match up better than others, and I think we'll get into some of the call-outs from this week. But I still think that it's a situation that the right matchup puts you right back in contention.
Absolutely. I was hoping that Fabricio was maybe one fight away from the title.
More.
Not anymore. He's going to be at least 2 fights now, I think. So he'll have to fight someone down the ladder. Maybe he'll get that fight against Derek Lewis, which we'll talk about who Derek Lewis wants to fight. Maybe he'll fight. He'll get a fight somewhere else. But I'm really disappointed for Fabricio. You know who wasn't disappointed for Fabricio?
Cain Velasquez.
Colby Covington.
Golly, there's so many things to be said about Colby, though. The guy has no tact whatsoever. He wants so badly to be Conor McGregor, but at least Conor had some level of charm. Like, he might be nice one day. Colby's just a jerk all the time.
But here's the thing, too, is that I have noticed on Twitter and even in the media for MMA, the general consensus about Colby Covington has gone from being about 50-50 positive negative to mostly negative now. Like, people are just tired of Colby Covington.
I think they are, but I think they should also be tired of the UFC, because we're going to talk about all the different people who got called out, and the fact that we're doing, like, fights shouldn't be picked based on Twitter spats. That's ridiculous, right?
All right, we'll get to it. Let's get out of this segment. There's one more fight that I know that you want to talk about. Danny Henry defeated Hakeem Dawodu.
I think you butchered that, but that's all right.
I butchered that one. I'm sorry. It wasn't Francais.
My gosh. I mean, your Wakanda pass is officially revoked.
Man. Yeah, I probably don't deserve to go to Wakanda. This guillotine that Danny Henry and he had to work for it too.
Standing guillotine, yeah.
But he had to work for it. Once he landed a big shot that gave him an opportunity to go for the I think it was like an arm in guillotine at first, and they're rolling around. Hakeem is I'm not even going to try it because
that's right.
I butchered it. So Hakeem is trying to get out of it, and when Danny Henry finally locks it
in and gets it sunk.
And this is 39 seconds in the first round. Like, this fight was faster than a snap of the fingers.
It was almost a snap of the neck.
It was. I mean, you see that. I don't know what that bone is called. You're the AMP guy.
Oh, it's the third vertebrae located to the dorsimus maximus on the dismal side. With
you see that bone sticking out from the base of his neck, and it's like, that is gross. And he went unconscious. Hakeem went unconscious so fast that his tap out was like a caress. It was like he had lost so much. It was almost like he was waving his hand like Princess.
Well, it was strange because you could see that he was doing a good job trying to roll, but he rolled right into the submission, and I don't think he was prepared to like immediately lose his oxygen. So I don't think he actually got all 3 taps in. It was like his hand just went limp.
Yeah,
he didn't have time to tap. He was out.
Hey, you know what? You were making a joke, but you were actually right. That big bone at the base of your neck, it's called the C7 vertebrae.
Well, there you go. The hangman's vertebrae.
Okay. Wow.
It's true.
Wow. Okay. That took a turn I was not expecting.
What? That's true.
Okay. I don't know, but that's weird. We're talking about guillotines and you like the hangman's vertebrae. Wow.
Look, I'm sorry that I'm well cultured, and that's all I got.
That's all I got. Hey, what's that sound I hear? There's a couple of trains pulling in the station. Get your tickets ready. It's the hype train.
By the way, I lied. It's the sequel.
The hype train.
All right. After a big event, fighters get new fans on their bandwagon. It's something we call the hype train. In this segment, we'll decide if we've seen enough to punch our tickets and take a ride on the following fighters' hype trains. First one's up, Leon Edwards. This is the guy who's a striker who took the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy down early and often. Got himself a TKO in the 3rd round with 1 second left.
I'm not on his hype train, though I think he's an amazing fighter.
Yeah, I haven't seen. This is the first time I've seen him fight. I like how he called out Darren Till, but I don't think he's far enough along for Darren. Darren Till is in the stratosphere right now. Leon's got some fighting to do before I'm gonna get on his hype train.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to progress through the rankings quite well. He's going to be good, but I mean, we're far away from real contention.
Yeah, but the great angle is they're both from the UK. So this is countrymen versus countrymen here. And so I think that it could be a good fight if Leon can climb up the ladder that Darren Till skyrocketed. Next one, Jan Blachowicz.
I mean, beating Jimmy Manuwa, who is a very telegraphed fighter, I'm not going to get on your hype train because you should beat him. You've seen him before. You know what he's going to throw. And yeah, congratulations. You can stand and bang, but that doesn't mean that you're ready for a title shot.
Yeah. I'm not going to let whether or not someone's ready for a title shot be my barometer as to whether or not I'm punching the ticket on their train. But I do think that I need to see more from Jan Blachowicz because I've kind of seen a couple of fights of his. I haven't been overly impressed. This is the first time where I was impressed by what he did. So I'm definitely gonna stand on the platform, but I'm not getting on the train. I'm gonna wait for it to come back around before I make a decision.
I support it.
Next one, Alexander Volkov.
I will 100% be on this guy's fight train. Like, what? The guy has just got too many weapons. Like, he was able to handle himself with Fabricio. I will give you that. His ground game was, like, he's able to stay long on the ground and have Fabricio at full extension trying to work. Yeah, it was impressive. And his striking game is apparently stunning. So, yeah, give me a ticket for this guy's hype train because I think he's going to do some big things.
All right, you know what? I think I'll wait.
What? Could you imagine him versus like a Frank Ngannou? Like Francis has no chance.
There's something about power that I haven't seen him get a fight against a really dynamic, powerful striker.
Deep trouble. I'll give you that.
So let's get him a Francis. I think he's going to get the winner out of Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. I think that's who they're going to try to give him, which I think that if it's Daniel Cormier, that's going to be a problem for Daniel.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So,
but Daniel's not going to fight him because he'll be 40 by then.
Yeah, probably. So I'm going to wait on Volkov. The last one, though, are you getting off the Fabricio Werdum hype train? Nah.
I mean, he's got a lot of fight in him for a guy who's been active probably 20 years at this point, forever. He's still got a lot of fight in him. He's still got a lot to offer. He's got to do a better job of disguising his takedown attempts and where he feigns that the jab has hurt him and he's trying to pull down a fighter and grab him by the gloves. Probably work on that a little bit. It's very obvious that you want to take the fight to the ground. So he's got to get a little better at his stand-up game. But I don't think that he's done by any means. So I still think he's got a lot in him. So I'm on board.
It's going to take a lot to get me off this hype train. All I got to say is a boomerang, Australia. That's it.
Oh, yeah. Mate.
I'm... Fabricio,
good
you can
on
lose the next 5 fights. I'm still on this hype train. You hit Colby Covington with the freaking boomerang. That's all I got to say.
It's a strong move, mate.
All right. Move. The trains have left the station. Let's move on to the head. Wait, what?
There's one train that I want to get on.
All right.
Just because I've had a crazy day today.
Yeah.
So I was telling you about the workouts that I had. Went to jiu-jitsu, went to weightlifting, and then went to Muay Thai. And one of the fighters that I got to see just in action was to see Matt Brown, the Immortal. Holy cow. Seeing these guys in real life in the gym putting in work, may not have been on this hype train before, but 100% on it. This Carlos Condit fight, 100% going Matt Brown here.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a big fan of the Immortal. Is it the Immortal 1 or the Immortal? Either way.
The Immortal.
The Immortal Matt Brown. I love a fighter who looks relatively unassuming and then comes in there and just punches a hole through you.
Just does work.
That's a great, violent guy. I love that guy. So welcome aboard. I'm glad to have you.
Right on.
All right. Well, the trains have left the station. Let's move on to headlines that are making waves in the MMA world with Finding the Angles. Finding the Angles. This is Finding the Angles, our news and headlines segment where we look at the topics making headlines in the MMA world. I have to say, I'm going to just be up front. Some of these headlines are last week's headlines, but since we didn't have a show, I still feel like we need to talk about them.
So you're starting off with, see what had happened was...
What had happened was Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes is not happening.
I'm glad. Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Both of those people have other things to do.
Yet.
Oh, dang it.
So what has happened is the UFC has scheduled Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington for the 135-pound female bantamweight title at UFC 224, which is happening May 12th. Pennington's on a 4-fight win streak, but she's had no fights since November 2016. Sounds like someone else I know.
Me?
No,
thanks, bud.
No, but we've got a counter that's keeping track of certain someone who hasn't fought in almost 2 years. Her last fight is
it hasn't been that long since I fought.
a dominant fight over Miesha Tate. My question just for you is Chris Cyborg, Amanda Nunes versus Raquel Pennington. Is that a compelling fight to you? Is that something?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Only because it's not fighting Cyborg.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. I personally, I think Raquel Pennington has come a long way. I mean, I remember when she was struggling to beat, what was her the Queen of Spades? I think that was her name. Forgot. She's now a professional wrestler like Ronda Rousey. Like Raquel Pennington fought barely won against, some lower level fighter. Shayna Baszler is her name. I don't know why I don't know why I'm having trouble with like names. I don't know,
because names are wicked hard.
But anyway, I remember Raquel Pennington struggling early in her career, and so that image is still stuck with me. I haven't seen her really do work. I didn't see the Miesha Tate fight. I'm gonna have to go back and watch that just to get caught up on it. But I feel like Amanda Nunes is gonna just run straight through Raquel Pennington, and so the only purpose that this intermediate fight is serving is to build up the Amanda Nunes Chris Cyborg fight, because we've seen.
But what if on some odd off-world scenario we have Nunes lose? Do we still have champion versus champion? Do we have a Nunes versus Cyborg? What happens?
You could still have a Nunes versus Cyborg because they weren't fighting for the title anyway. You're not going to have Raquel Pennington versus Cyborg because that's even dumber. I think that would be a worst case scenario, Amanda Nunes losing to Raquel Pennington. That would really hurt the star power of the super fight between Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes. I think she has to go in there, on a win streak with the title, coming up to face the most dangerous female in the world. I'm giving her that title. I think that's
she's earned it. She has absolutely earned it.
All right, next story. This guy, he fights in a regional promotion called Legacy FC. Actually, it's one that largely circulates around Texas. So Nick Newell won his 14th fight a couple of weeks ago for Legacy Fighting Championship. So let me tell you a little bit about him and why he's noteworthy on this segment. He was born with a congenital amputation, so he's missing his hand and half his forearm. But over his career, he has 11 finishes. He's earned his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. In high school, he racked up 123 wins in wrestling and was elected the captain of his college wrestling team. Like, this guy, even though
resume.
he's got this disability. He has put in work. And so, as is everyone's dream, whenever they are, working their way up the ladder in mixed martial arts, is to get the shot at the best talent in the world, and that's getting in the UFC. But Dana White once said that Nick Newell will never compete in the UFC.
He also said the same about Ronda Rousey.
Yeah. So what we're hoping is that, maybe he'll come off that position too. I can understand why there is this hesitation because of because Nick Newell is missing, part of his arm, but he has shown his strength and capability within the ring. And so
at the very least, I say give him a shot on tough. Like, earn your way up.
Yeah.
If you really don't respect the fighter, then let him earn his way up.
I think that's fair. So, I guess you've answered my first question. Should Nick Newell get a shot? The answer to you is yes. It's yes for me too. By the way, I didn't think I was going to get to use this, but I'm going to use it. I am on the Nick Newell hype train. I am on it. I'm declaring it here on the show right now. I am on the Nick Newell hype train. I'll be tweeting this out after the show.
All right. I'm not there yet.
All right. That's fair. He's still got something to prove to you. He's proven enough to me. My question to you is this. He's 14-1. Is his record a result of non-UFC competition?
I don't know. I mean, everyone who's not in the UFC has that.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I don't think that detracts in any way from his ability to move up to a better promotion.
All right. I agree. There it is. Hey, Robert Whittaker versus Yoel Romero 2 has been scheduled. UFC 225. That's going to be sometime in June. So we're going to get to see whether or not the Soldier of God can make up for that, I would say, embarrassing loss to Robert Whittaker. I'm assuming Robert Whittaker has overcome his staph infection that had him in the hospital.
To me, it's interesting because Yoel has grown as a fighter so much. Like, it may not go Yoel's way. Yoel may not even make weight. But I do think it'll be a much better fight.
All right. I think it's going to be a great fight. I'm starting to like the fact that there are some really good fights that are coming out that aren't these big names. Like, you don't need a Conor McGregor. You don't need a John Jones. You don't need a Daniel Cormier. That this is actually an interesting fight. And these fighter names are, I mean, we know them, but they're not people that you're going to see, in lights.
They're not household
Hollywood
names yet.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of household names, Ronda Rousey basically announced she's done forever with MMA.
It's the right choice. Life is passing her by.
Absolutely. She was on Ellen.
She can only hurt her legacy within the sport if she continued.
Yeah, she was on Ellen, and Ellen asked her if she was ever going to go back to the UFC, and she said that's like saying she would go back to the Olympics and participate in judo. So that's as much of a no as I've ever heard without saying no. I mean, I think probably.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't think she's going to be a great, like, I'm not a huge wrestling watcher, fan, or whatever. But personality-wise, like, you can only play the mean, quiet, silent person for so long. She doesn't have enough personality for that to be a huge thing. So she's got a lot of other things in the works, other projects that are interesting, but her as a wrestler, I'm not buying it.
So what about The Undertaker?
The Undertaker was a heck of a presence. Ronda Rousey is not.
What about Kane?
Kane is a heck of a presence. Ronda Rousey is not. If Ronda Rousey was the size of Gabriela Garcia, she could play that role.
Oh man, I just thought it was funny because you're like, you can't be just a strong silent type.
Well, you can, but she can't. She doesn't play it well because it doesn't come across as authentic.
She doesn't. She doesn't. You are absolutely right. I don't buy it. She couldn't pull it off whenever she was really fighting in the UFC. Fake fighting in the WWE is not going to improve the believability of her badassness. And I'm gonna.
What I would like to see, though, now that I've said it out loud, is Gabby Garcia, the jiu-jitsu champion for like everything that pops up most of the time. And she fights for the Risen promotion. She trains with Silva and Cyborg, depending on where she's traveling. Her in the WWE, like she could play the female Kane. So not in a derogatory way, but like she is a presence.
I'm about to go and look her up. But you know who else was thinking about following Ronda Rousey to WWE?
The biggest loser I can think of. That's harsh.
That's way harsh. Jeez.
I apologize.
Golly. Paige is crying.
That was unnecessary. Paige, congratulations on admitting that you're about to take this paycheck and this L and walk away.
I don't think the WWE wants her yet, but Paige Van Zant said that she'd definitely like to work with the WWE, that she does not a type of person who passes up opportunities. So if they called, she would definitely pick up the phone.
Can we stop having such crossover, though? Like, I want fighting to be fighting and WWE to be WWE.
Well, here's the thing, is that if you want me to get off that Paige Van Zant hype train, as soon as she... Like, this crazy talk about crossing over to WWE is the fastest way to get me off your hype train. I cannot stand it. I do not... That's a subject for a heavy bag.
We'll do a heavy bag on that.
We'll do a heavy bag because I hate the crossover. But I do like the fact that when she was not fighting in the in the UFC, when she was not fighting in the UFC, she had a stint on Dancing with the Stars where she was moderately successful, and she also won a celebrity version of Chopped. So she can cook, apparently.
I'm not impressed by her performance.
Oh, wow. Got the GSP. Hey, speaking of GSP, wow. Yes. Are you following along on the run sheet or what?
Not even a little bit. I'm honestly staring at never mind.
Okay. Because Ben Askren thinks one word is keeping him from the UFC. This is an MMA fighting story. I'm sorry for not sourcing all the other ones, but this is an MMA fighting story that I thought was really interesting. Ben Askren was on last week's MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, and he was talking about his desire to fight George St. Pierre. The accent, the quote that you were referencing just a second ago. He wants that fight. He's willing to come out of retirement to get that fight, but he thinks one word is keeping him out of the UFC. Do you know what that one word is?
Dana.
Well, that is the person who's keeping him out for sure. It is Dana White, and it's a really interesting story if you go back and do the research on the exchange between Ben Askren, who was at Bellator at the time, trying to cross over to the UFC, and all the hoops that Dana and Lorenzo and his brother, whose name I forget, the Fertitta brothers, put him through to try to get a UFC contract, and then at the last minute, they withdrew their contract. There is one word that Ben Askren thinks is keeping him out of the UFC, and that word is liar. He called Dana White a liar. So this was during the time when there wasn't the substantial drug testing that's going on now in the UFC. At that time, Ben Askren was a big proponent of going and doing year-round random testing of all athletes. Dana White said it wasn't possible. Ben Askren called him a liar. And the rest is history, according to Ben Askren. Because what ended up happening next is, of course, less than a year or about a year after this whole exchange between Ben Askren and Dana White occurred, Dana White and the UFC signed a deal with USADA, the United States Anti-Doping Agency, and they implemented a year-round random drug testing program across all athletes. So
we should do a show on how many times Dana White has been a detriment to the UFC rather than moving things forward.
I'm going to let you do that research because at some point, maybe Dana White will listen to the show. And I
See,
don't want to
do that.
I don't want to have any
Dana
black
White
marks.
comes,
I don't want to have any black
Dana White
marks.
comes for people on Twitter and Instagram. I'm good. So Dana, good job. Nailed it.
All right. So you're the one who told me about this, and I didn't believe you, but I went and looked it up myself, and you were...
My man, Mayweather, yeah?
Yeah. Floyd Mayweather says he's starting MMA training with UFC champion Tyron Woodley.
Both have confirmed it. I love the confidence that Mayweather comes into this at. He's like, yeah, my striking's 100. My kicks are probably about a 4, but my wrestling's about like a 70. So he comes in this confident that all he has to do is really get some Muay Thai skills into this, and he'd be effective. I mean, at 40 years old, the man's still quick. He's snappy, but I think this is all hype. There's nothing real that can come from it. Outside, I say that, but I also know that Dana likes his money, and this is going to be something that people are going to watch for absolutely no reason. They're just going to watch.
If they did one fight, maybe something could come of it. But it can't
be a championship fight.
Well, no, of course not. I mean, even the fight that Conor had with Floyd was not a championship fight. It was the money belt, right?
Yeah.
But Floyd Mayweather, perhaps he gets his rematch. Well, he gives Conor a rematch, but in the octagon.
That'd be terrible.
It would be terrible. But
it's got to be against someone else.
Who are you going to put him in there with? CM Punk? I mean, that's the only person.
That's exactly where my mind thought. I was like, CM could lose some weight.
So here's the thing, and I'm going to kind of steal my thunder a little bit, but they interviewed Darren Till after the UFC London fight, and that's where we learned that Darren Till is actually going to be headlining the UFC Liverpool fight, and so they haven't got a opponent for him yet, but that's what we're going to talk about in the call-outs, because he did call some people out. But one of the things he talked about in his not post-fight, but in the interview after the UFC London card, was the fact that it frustrates him that people are getting a shot in the UFC when there are amazing fighters who are barely making ends meet, who are getting passed over. And so there's someone who he trains with who drives 40 to 45 minutes there and back to his training to help Darren become this fighter that he has become, and he can't get a shot in the UFC for anything. But you've got a CM Punk who comes from WWE who says he thinks he can make it. You've got Floyd Mayweather, who is a boxer who's got zero cage experience, who's potentially going to get a shot. What do you think about this discrepancy between true fighters who are making this their lives, who are barely making ends meet, who are getting passed over by the UFC, when these people who don't need the money, who don't need the celebrity at all, are getting shots handed out to them like golden tickets at Willy Wonka's factory?
For me, it's my opinion has never wavered on this situation. I think it's an embarrassment to the sport, and I think it's just a travesty that we're willing to. I'm okay to some degree that we can make this happen, but you got to make sure that the card includes some up and comers who can get a payday. Like CM Punk making more money than Mighty Mouse it's a shame. It's a blight on the sport. And so I do believe that this is part of the whole. UFC has got to promote, like, learn how to actually promote fights and not just go for the easy money fights. Like, yay, congratulations, you put together a big name card that everyone's going to watch, but that only works for so long. Like, some of us are tired of seeing the same fighters for the last 10 years.
Well, you know who you haven't seen in 472 days and counting?
C-Mac.
Conor McGregor. 472 days.
I don't miss him at all.
Yeah, I missed him with both barrels.
Hey-oh.
Hey-oh.
I don't think at this point, he's not going to add, like, he's going to need an easy fight to get him back on track. And his Khabib, not an easy fight. Ferguson, not an easy fight. So what does he do? Change weight classes?
He's been vying for this 165-pound class that doesn't exist. So, listen, you know what? That's been finding the angles. We need to get into the gym and do a little work on the heavy bag because I got some frustration that I need to get off my chest.
The heavy bag.
All right, this is the heavy bag where we go all out on a topic until we got nothing else to say. And today is my turn. I need to vent about this pound for pound list because heavyweights, Conor McGregor, and you got to go with me on this, Chris Cyborg, they don't need to be on this pound for pound list. And now, for those of you who are uninitiated, who don't know about pound for pound, this has become, in the UFC, but combat sports overall, one of those things that people talk about almost as much as they talk about this notion of the GOAT, the greatest of all time. People talk about pound for pound, and there's a real reason why we have this thing called pound for pound. It's because there's no way that Demetrius Johnson, who weighs 125 pounds, can fight John Jones, who weighs 205 pounds. You're never going to see that fight. The days when you could put those two in a ring and let them fight it out are long, long gone. So now we have this notion of pound for pound so that we can normalize between Demetrius Johnson, who's 125 pounds, and someone like John Jones, who's 80 pounds heavier. Here's the thing. The reason why we normalize is because we normalize towards the baddest man on the planet, a title that has been traditionally reserved for the heavyweight champion. And so because the heavyweight champion, who weighs up to 265 pounds, who is the biggest and strongest typically of all the fighters on the roster, cannot fight all of the people who are great fighters. So therefore, we create this pound for pound list in reference to the heavyweight champion. So when I look at this list, this is the list that's currently on the UFC's website. Number 1, pound for pound, Demetrius Johnson. Number 2, Conor McGregor, who hasn't fought in 472 days. How is he even on this list? Number 3, Daniel Cormier, who is getting ready to fight for the heavyweight championship. Number 4, Stipe Miocic, the heavyweight champion. Why is Stipe Miocic on number 4 on the list when he is the standard by which all of the other people on the list are measured? We are scaling them up to him. He can't be number 4. He should not be on this list. Any other heavyweight on this list can just fight Stipe Miocic. If they're on the pound for pound list, they should be a number 1 contender. Number 5, Max Holloway. Number 6, George St. Pierre. George St. Pierre fought one time in 4 years, and he's number 6 on the pound for pound list. Number 7, TJ Dillashaw. Number 8, Tyron Woodley. Number 9, Chris Cyborg, which I respect Chris Cyborg. She is an amazing fighter. She is the most dangerous woman in the world. But there is a reason why we have women's divisions and we have men's divisions. We've separated them, you know. So therefore, Chris Cyborg, who is from the women's divisions, the heavyweight champion at 145 pounds, she is the standard by which all the other women are measured. She should not be on this list. Number 10, Tony Ferguson. So maybe my thing is I have a problem with the UFC's pound for pound list because of the fact that it has fighters who should not be on this list. It has heavyweights who should either be who is the heavyweight champion or should be fighting the heavyweight champion. Or it's got women when you've got a women's division that you could easily create a pound for pound female list on. Not that there's enough fighters to do that, but you know what I'm saying. So, fix your list, UFC. And by the way, there should be another pound for pound list that is all of MMA because in so much as we haven't talked about Bellator in a long time, they've got some great fighters out there.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But
So,
where do you extend that? Like,
Well-
do you also include risen fighters?
Yes.
Do you include victory fighters?
Yes. You include
World
all
Series
of the
of
fighters.
Fighting.
But the fact is that what? I got Risen. Yeah.
World Series of Fighting, is that still not a thing?
What is that? Is that a thing? Anyway, ONE FC Legacy. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that there's probably a standard by which, a minimum standard. So Bellator being the kind of the number 2 promotion, I think that their fighters would be valid for a pound for pound list. Some of these other regional promotions, I don't know that they've got the depth of talent that the UFC and Bellator have to be able to submit a fighter for the pound for pound. But I really do think that there should be a pound for pound list that incorporates the entire MMA world and not just the UFC, even though the entire MMA world is largely the UFC. So that's all I got. Now that I've called out the MMA media for making such a ridiculous list, let's see who else is calling out people in the UFC with the new segment we call Fighter Callouts.
Fighter callouts.
This segment brought to you by the year 2003 and, I don't know, Affliction Jeans.
You know what? I was just thinking when I hit the button to play the segment music, I was like, you know what? We've done fighter callouts before.
Yeah.
Not a new segment, but here we are. Hey, gone are the days when you just fought the next man up. There's no such thing as anyone, anywhere, anytime anymore. It's about calling your next fight.
In different promotions.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And not the UFC anyway. Here we're going to discuss some fighters trying to influence the matchmakers by talking their way into their next bout. Since this is not the first time we've done the segment, but it's been a long time since we've done the segment, we'll cover some of the older call-outs as well. All right, First one. Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, calls out Francis Ngannou. He wants to fight. He wants that fight.
He wants that fight. No one else does. Who wants to see two sluggers go at it, which in no way will shape how the championship will take place. This is an uneventful fight to me. Yeah,
but you know what's interesting to me, and we're going to see this over and over again. You've got Derek Lewis, who was the lower ranked fighter, looking up at the summit of the heavyweight division, calling out one of the biggest, baddest, most popular stars we've got right now at heavyweight. And I think you're right. This is like a 1-round fight. Yeah. As much as I like Derek Lewis's accuracy and the way, I don't think that he survives the first 3 minutes of that fight.
He's not ready for that, Frank.
He's not ready for the
because that's going to be a stand and bang. And Lewis is not known for getting off center line. You do not want to be on center line with Francis Ngannou thrown at you.
Yeah, he's it's going to be bad. But guess who Francis Ngannou is calling out?
I have not seen this.
Brock Lesnar. Ooh. Everybody wants Brock.
Because everyone wants to get paid. That's the whole thing.
Everyone wants to get paid, but do you realize the steroid machine you're bringing into the octagon when you bring Brock Lesnar to the cage? Like, this is not a fight that you should want.
But steroids don't make your chin strong.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Francis Ngannou has shown that wrestling is not his forte.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Brock Lesnar is a beast when it comes to wrestling. I don't think Francis knows. I don't think he's seen any Brock Lesnar fights, because if he did, he would be calling out Daniel Cormier. No, he wouldn't.
You don't want that fight.
You don't want that fight either. Leon Edwards. We already talked about this one. Calls out Darren Till. He wants that Liverpool fight May 27th.
Can I just say that this is just problematic start to finish here, that fights are being set based on fighters calling each other out on Twitter. What is the UFC doing?
But they've been doing this for years.
Ugh.
Remember, the only way that John Jones and Chael Sonnen happened was because of that epic Twitter war that they had. And that was like UFC 152 or 153. We're at 223 now?
Yep. It makes for good TV, but it's a poor way to handle your promotion. Let's go back to the old tournament style.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Anywho.
Darren Till. Okay, so Leon Edwards calls out Darren Till. Leon Edwards at the base camp. Darren Till in the stratosphere. Darren Till's calling out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. He wants that fight. He wants that fight in Liverpool.
So are all these just money fights to you, the ones that you're seeing fighters calling each other out? Like, do you think it's just these fighters really believe that stylistically this is a good matchup for me? Or it's just like, hey, I got to move up the rankings, so I'll just call out the biggest name I can think of?
Well, not when it comes to Darren Till, because he of the people on this list, and then we got a few more, Darren Till has the star power. I mean, he has gotten to the point now where he versus Stephen Thompson would be a compelling fight. I think Darren,
for sure,
having beaten Cowboy Cerrone, not that Cowboy was highly ranked in the welterweight division, I think Darren Till has earned him a shot at one of the top guys at welterweight. He also, since Wonderboy Thompson has not responded, he also called out Robbie Lawler and Jorge Masvidal.
Masvidal gets worked. Robbie Lawler has a shot.
Yeah. All right. Guess who's calling out Brian Ortega? Jeremy Stevens. Little Heathen.
Ooh, I like that fight.
See, that's a good fight. Like, I would watch that fight. Now, Brian Ortega is betrothed to Max Holloway, I believe, but Jeremy Stevens, I would try to get on that card and hope that somebody gets injured, because you can't go wrong Jeremy Stevens versus Max Holloway or Jeremy Stevens versus Brian Ortega. You know what I was getting ready to do? I was like, woohoo.
No, I think you got to drop for this. Man.
I got to drop for this now. I don't need to do the sound effect. Yeah, but like Jeremy Stevens, man, talk about someone who gets me excited about the sport, man. Jeremy Stevens, dude. You might remember after he finished my fraternity brother, OSP, Ilir Latifi, called out Daniel Cormier. But that fight's not happening because Daniel Cormier is already in a match for the heavyweight championship versus Stipe Miocic.
Right.
And then lastly in this segment, we ain't talking about Colby Covington because nobody cares.
Agreed, because Colby, yeah,
that's it. All right. So that's it for fighter callouts, and that's it for our show. Follow us on social media. On Twitter, I'm at CST Ryan.
And I am at CST_K_C.
You can check out the website at www.combatsportstalk.com. And you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube.
Yes.
All right. You got anything else?
Meet me outside. How about that?
All right, let's go. Let's get out of here. Our theme music is composed by Scott McCurry at scottdeancountry.com. Casey Onyebuchi produced our lead-ins. I want to thank you for joining us for another edition of Combat Sports Talk. For Casey Onyebuchi, I'm Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, your chin tucked, and throw bombs.
Cash me outside. How about that?